so one of my best friends in college was a guy named Bryan. We spent a lot of time together, did a metal radio show, spent a lot of nights in bars, and watched a ton of classic horror movies. Also, Punisher Warzone. We watched that a couple times. We still keep in touch, and the other day, out of the blue, he sent me this Nightmare on Elm Street lunchbox. I do not collect lunchboxes, but I think this is the beginning of a collection, and he even filled it with a whole bunch of stickers and postcards and stuff. Now, that came completely by surprise, so I feel like I have to make it up to him. One thing you may not know about Bryan is that he has suggested a lot of videos for me to review for this, especially Eyes Without a Face, which is one of the more popular ones on the channel. So, I'm going to do him another solid and recommend a movie that he had mentioned to me years ago. So, this is American Mary.
Overcoming all circumstances, it is complete.
American Mary is about a broke college student training to be a surgeon. After a run-in involving helping out a mob boss for cash, people begin to come to her from the body mod community, and people take a liking to her to do unusual surgeries. Eventually, she builds up a reputation as a back alley surgeon, able to do any modification imaginable for a price.
We want you to take off our left arms and exchange them with one another.
That shouldn't be a problem.
And after one of her former teachers sexually assaults her at a party, Mary takes it upon herself to have him kidnapped and brought back to her apartment, where she tortures him by practicing.
I've come up with a little list of the most popular procedures that we are going to try on you.
By the way, are you guys eating anything? Because you might want to put that down. We're about to talk about body horror. Body horror can be a broad term for the uninitiated, but it's exactly what it sounds like. It's horror that's focused around the grotesque disfiguration and transformation of the human body. There are some undoubted masters of this in horror, like Cronenberg or Del Toro, and anime fans will point to things like Akira and the thousands of things that have ripped off Akira. But most horror that deals with changes in the body are involuntary. An alien gets in your body, tries to fight your way out. A chemical gets in your system and turns you into a horrifying abomination. And then there's the medical side of things. Some people are freaked out by surgery and medical procedures and needles to begin with, and a lot of horror movies will take advantage of that. They show mad scientists putting body parts together and experimenting on human beings, often to create crazy, exaggerated monsters. Then there are some other mad scientists who want to make you look like Betty Boop.
My niece, she's a receptionist at a veterinary clinic. We can use the operating room after hours.
Because in a way, that's kind of just as horrifying as anything you'll see in Human Centipede.
There are numerous procedures outlined here, but please don't feel limited to them. The most important thing is that you're happy and comfortable with yourself.
This movie was made by the Soska sisters, who have had a couple of notable horror successes. They both created some pieces for the ABCs of Death. They remade the Cronenberg movie Rabid recently, and I cannot, as a wrestling fan, forget that they also directed the movie See No Evil 2 starring Kane, a movie that critics agreed was better than nothing. This was one of their first films, and it was pretty much self-financed. In fact, the girls' parents remortgaged their house so that they could have the money to put on the production. Because when parents really believe in their children's dreams, and they are artists, they will put a lot of money into it. Trust me, I lived at home till I was 30. The entire movie was shot on a shoestring budget, and they got everything filmed in 15 days, which is certifiably insane, especially when you take into consideration that none of the effects here were done digitally. They were all done through practical effects. The fact that this was all done practically is especially impressive when you remember that this is a film about a woman performing surgery. You see the cuts, the blood, the ligaments, the stitches, all in their gruesome detail. Or in instances where they happen to have somebody who already had the body mods done, they just cast them as extras. Like, I don't think that's a special effect.
I'd say that's healing very nicely. I fucking love it.
But some of the ideas for the surgeries and procedures are so outlandish that it's just impossible to find people willing to work for scale who have done this in real life.
Take these off and seal up this as much as possible. Take off the extra bits, too.
The woman who wants to be a doll so badly that she has Mary seal up every conceivable hole in her body, she comes to mind. I don't want to know what part of her body just fell off there. The piece de resistance, though, is probably the two sisters who run a body mod website known as the Devil Twins. They are actually played by the Soska sisters. Hope that extra got extra hazard pay for this. I think the procedure the Soska sisters came up with to have themselves do on screen was done just so they could prove that they could. The procedure involved them severing their arms and swapping them with their sisters, because reasons. And also, to match their Devil Sisters nickname, they got implants put in their heads.
We feel that image best describes the reflection we desire.
Because the film had such a limited budget, they really got the most out of their effects. They used a lot of hard angles and some close-ups to give the illusion that there was more there, but when you come into the effects in their entirety, you absolutely want more of them. Like, remember how Mary was torturing a doctor who drugged and abused her? Well, they show that.
Hello, Dr. Grant. It's been a while.
They show all of that.
We're just gonna take a few pictures of you today for my website.
So much of this movie is build-up and tension that the little moments where they show the effects are really powerful, and nothing hits harder than when you actually see all of the things that Mary has experimented on the doctor with. It's downright pathetic in the scenes where he tries to crawl away looking for help, but it looks amazing on screen. Mary herself is played by Katharine Isabelle, who a lot of horror fans will remember as Ginger from the movie Ginger Snaps. And Ginger Snaps is a movie that I'd really like to talk about once I get a better grasp on what it actually is about. I may need a female perspective on that one. Or a werewolf perspective, whichever I can get first.
I'm investigating the disappearance of Dr. Alan Grant.
The disappearance? That's terrible.
But Isabelle really went hard into preparation for this. She attended classes in medical school and eventually learned how to suture a turkey herself, which is useful the whole year round and not just Thanksgiving if you're fat enough. But technical aspects of the character aside, she has a great sarcastic edge to her and some great facial expressions throughout the runtime.
I obviously do not have any kind of insurance package for this kind of thing.
I'll give you $2,000 just to show up.
What time does the clinic close?
And the transition that Mary goes through from eager and wide-eyed innocent student to cold-hearted back alley surgeon is pretty remarkable. By the halfway mark of the film, there is a moment where you realize that everyone around her is petrified of what she has become. Even the man who brought her into the criminal underworld is terrified to have a conversation with her.
You want me to take care of that for you? I owe you one.
No, we're just gonna scare him.
I can scare him.
It's really hard to believe that the person at the beginning of the movie would eventually become somebody who would murder a cop in cold blood, mutilate a fellow doctor out of revenge, and threaten a woman with involuntary surgery just to make a point. I wish the movie had some more characters that were as well likable as Mary, but nah, not really. The strip club owner is obnoxious. The Betty Boop lady who gets her into the body mod community in the first place, she gets really grating and really annoying real fast. And the other doctors are just plain awful caricatures of human beings, especially her teacher.
Surgeons don't have the luxury about being sorry about anything, Mary. I have enough useless twats in my class. I'm not going to abide by one of my promising students falling asleep.
And I know that that's the point. He gets what's coming to him, but not a single redeemable thing about any of these guys.
I'm a fucking motherfucker. No, seriously, babe. I cut people up for a living.
If there is one guy I kind of like Mary's bodyguard, Lance. He doesn't have a lot of screen time, but he does have a genuinely sweet moment where he tries to reveal some past trauma to Mary and tells her to keep believing in herself.
Don't you ever devalue what you do, Mary. You make sure they deserve it, and don't waste a minute of your time thinking about them after you're done.
Which is only after she just killed a dude. All right, it loses a bit in context, but trust me, it's nice. The ending of the movie is a little sudden, but it definitely has its moments. The woman who wanted to be a real-life Barbie doll has a husband, and he did not approve of this surgery, so he went around looking for the address to get revenge on who did this to her, and that's where he runs into Betty Boop, who just totally rats her out.
He wanted to know who you were and where you lived. I didn't want to tell him.
I would say that snitches get stitches, but given how many surgeries she's had to look like that, she's probably got enough stitches already. Mary gets fatally stabbed by the man and attempts to fight him off, and in one final attempt to save her own life, she crawls over to her own operating table and attempts to patch up her own wound. When they find her body, she's actually still holding the scalpels in her hand. It's a little heavy-handed. They try and bring home the message that she spent her whole career fixing other people, couldn't fix herself. But at the same time, I kind of dig it. That and the fact that Ave Maria plays at the beginning and end of the film, playing at literally the beginning of her surgical career, and then at the bloody, disgusting end of it. So sometimes it works. I ain't gonna say I'm too high and mighty not to appreciate that.
If there's anything I can do to help you express yourself any further, let me know.
The Soska sisters have described this movie as basically a horror version of Legally Blonde, and that is shockingly accurate. It's got a really twisted premise, a few decent scares, a lot of brutal body horror, and some more than decent performances. For an incredibly low-budget film, it knows exactly what it is, and it explores every aspect of it. Some people may find it a little cringy at times, and don't worry, I totally agree, but there is also a lot to enjoy from some of these performances, and there's a ton of mental aspect to it. I can't fault it for being what it is. So I definitely say check it out, especially if you're not too bothered by needles, scalpels, surgery, stitches, body parts, medical stuff, any of that.
Isn't this fun? I'm still learning from you.
Next time, I feel like we need to take a look at some horror movie soundtracks. Let's do another hit list.
Did you enjoy the movie?
Not sure I really understood it all. Then let me explain.
He's